And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to the Marketing Rules live webinar. The webinar that we do kind of once a month, where we get the ThinkinCircles team together. We chat around some of the kind of topics and discussions that we've either been having within the company. We've been having with some of our clients. We've been having with some of you guys that have been have been watching us. Today, we're going to talk a little bit around owning the conversation, which absolute kind of total plug is for our new ebook that's available on the website. So we're going to kind of talk around some of the kind of points that we kind of cover in the ebook, expand on those, kind of give our own kind of personal viewpoints on them. Obviously today we are joined by Taylor, who's our kind of growth marketing executive at ThinkinCircles, and we've got Chris and Kat, who are part of the kind of senior team, not by age but by just kind of levels of amazing experience at ThinkinCircles. As we're going along, if anybody's got any questions, if you're following us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, feel free to drop them into the comments, and we will try and answer them as best as we can as we go along. If not, then you can always kind of reach out to any of us at the end of the webinar, and kind of with any kind of follow-up questions. So should we kind of crack on then, right? So the podcast, the ebook kind of is called Owning the Conversation, and it's a term that we kind of use all the time at ThinkinCircles around how you kind of try to stand out from the rest of the other businesses that you might be competing with and be known for something, right? So the kind of first question I'm going to pose to everybody is what does it actually mean for a recruitment business to be known for something? What does that actually kind of look like? What does that concept kind of feel like? Let's kind of kick off with that, because I think that's the kind of best kind of place to start. Who wants to have a go at that first?
I can, if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, you go for it, Taylor.
Apologies for the connection to everyone who's viewing, but hopefully you guys can hear me. So I definitely feel that what it means to be known for something, and what you stand for in recruitment. I think one of the best ways for me to find that out would basically be if I were to talk to your clients and your candidates and ask them, what do you do? Would they be able to give me an answer? And most importantly, would they tell me the same thing? Because obviously it's the experience of the people that work with you, the experience that they get. And I just also feel that it's a message or a position that your business has, that you keep reinforcing and saying it over and over, and not just jumping from one standpoint to another and just trying to jump on the train, as I like to say, where you kind of have so much to say that you actually end up saying nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. Chris, kind of
I was going to say it's kind of credibility, isn't it? And like Taylor, you said then, it's around you shouting about things, but sometimes I think it's not at the same time. I think for me, like, what does it mean? I know I'm talking about that as a marketer, but again, that's like credibility and quality. So, as a recruitment agency, you should be known for your niche, right? Whether that's the vertical that you're in, the sector that you're in, the level of roles that you recruit for, blue collar, white collar, whatever that may be. I think for me, it's knowing not to be, obviously from a marketing point of view, you can shout about yourself as much as possible, but it really hits when people come back to you when they have a specific need, because they know that you are going to deliver on that. That makes sense. So what do we say in marketing? Like 94% of people aren't ready to buy right now. The 6% are. So when those 94% are ready to buy from somebody, instead of them going out and doing their research, things like that, they already know about you. They already know that you are that niche, and that's where your positioning comes in, right? That's kind of, if you position yourself and you have that good messaging, they know exactly what you do, how you do it, the quality that they're going to get from you, and they just keep coming back, and it's like repeat business, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to do a little B2C comparison, because I think in B2B we're really bad. We find it difficult to sort of own a space to kind of stand out for something different. I think that's because businesses are so often focused on talking about the product and the service and what it is. They talk that the messaging is all constructed around what it is that they do, whereas consumer brands are so much more on what people feel and standing for something. And I think that's where recruitment businesses can really kind of get an edge on the competition, is learning from those consumer brands. So if you think, if you think of, I don't know, like Volvo, you sort of tend to think of safety. Or if you think of Red Bull, you think of
Wings.
energy, wings, adventure, crazy competitions. You don't necessarily think of the product, the energy drink. You don't think they're not talking about the car. They're talking about how you feel and that thing that they want to be known for. And I think that's where recruitment firms can learn a lot from, is thinking, okay, what do we want to be known for? What's the sector specialism? What's the hiring challenge that we're going to be known for? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from our competition? And really owning that, like you say, owning that conversation and sticking to it.
Yeah, it's great. So I actually shout out to our friend Nitin, who runs the Rec Tools podcast, which I was on the other day, kind of talking about something similar. And I actually made a very similar point, Kat. I used the example of Honda, right? That doesn't sell anything when you see those adverts, right? It's selling the kind of the feeling, the future, the technology, the aspiration, right? To be part of the future kind of direction that they're selling. And we don't kind of do enough of that really within kind of recruitment space. And and that's kind of part of what we kind of, again, we cover in owning the conversation. I think, and all that kind of basically is exactly what we're talking about, is finding that thing that you can have some kind of authority, right, about, right? And not being afraid to, pin your kind of flag into that and go with it. Because I think there's definitely a difference sometimes that between kind of what, you're not going to piss people off by doing those kind of things, right? There's a difference between having an opinion and being provocative and things like that, right? So, and this doesn't really kind of get discussed anywhere near enough with kind of within kind of recruitment businesses, where it seems to be the easier option to play it safe, right? And when you do play it safe, you don't get known for anything. You become just part of the comparison with every other kind of recruitment business that might be your competitor. So a way to definitely kind of to actually be known for what you're known for something is to be known for something. You know what I mean? That's an obvious thing to say, but if you can kind of figure out what that is, because otherwise you just end up competing on the same thing or saying the same thing as you're trusted. You provide a quality service. You got quality candidates. And it becomes quite vanilla and quite flat. Whereas if you can kind of definitely say, look, we stand for, we want to talk about this, or we stand for this, etc., then I think you've already kind of got to step up. And there are lots of businesses that do that. You look at, there's some, might be kind of slightly kind of bigger businesses out there, but the likes of the Mawson Group and things like that have kind of like moved away and own that kind of like workplace talent management kind of thing. Those big businesses that just stick a lot of research out there, that's where you kind of go for that kind of thing. You can definitely do that on a smaller scale. It doesn't matter what size you are. You can kind of deal with that kind of thing. Shall we move on to kind of the next question, right? So that was basically, what does it actually mean to be known for something? So what do kind of many businesses or recruitment businesses struggle to define? Why do they struggle to define this, right? What's the kind of problem internally, externally, that they just can't get their head around how to decide on what they actually do stand for? Kat?
I mean, so I would say there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is what we've already sort of alluded to, and that's that they confuse their service offering with actually positioning themselves in the market. So I think kind of there's a failure to distinguish those two things. And I think a lot of businesses are really there's a fearfulness of picking a niche, because I think this comes partly with the territory of recruitment and the business models, and obviously it's peaks and troughs of demand and all that sort of stuff. But I think they're worried about, a lot of businesses are worried about sort of not narrowing their field and targeting specific businesses.
Alienating another audience somewhere, as opposed to
worried about narrowing the market and kind of, but you do pick up peripheral work anyway. Even if you focus your niche, you're going to pick up peripheral stuff. Yeah. But I think those two things to me are why they fail to define what they stand for. It's very service driven, and then it's that fear of really honing down on a niche because they don't want to exclude any potential opportunity that comes their way.
Yeah. It's a good interesting enough. Myself and Taylor were actually on a call with a potential kind of client the other day, and they were discussing with us that they're starting out. They're going to start building their new agency, and it was like they know that at the start, they're going to have to take a lot. They're going to have to take anything that comes along. But however, they've got a definite interest in a niche sector. And the conversation was like, well, maybe you want to niche down sooner rather than later, especially because we were having discussions around what potentially a brand position might look like, what their brand messaging might look like. And it says it's much easier actually to do that when you're niche, because you can be hyper targeted as opposed to trying to be all things to all people and then actually being nothing at all. That's I think where that can kind of lead you.
It's always easier to be niche the smaller a business you are, because you can just pick it, as you become a bigger business, and particularly in recruitment, and you get more specialisms on and stuff like that, and then you become one of these big generic recruitment businesses. That is harder, and that's where you've really got to go for the sort of more added value positioning, I think. Whereas when you're smaller as a business, you really can be like, this is what we do, and we absolutely nail it.
Laser focused. That's what
you become known for that, then, don't you? I think it's like the power of no, isn't it? I think especially for like smaller businesses that are looking to grow, just got to say yes, and just to kind of, you don't want to leave money on the table as a small business. And I think saying no, like you guys just said, and to people and niching down and becoming specialists in your area, I think is the way to go, really. As tough as that is for a small business, but I think it's what we need to do.
Yeah, I agree. It's gone. Taylor, sorry, go on.
So sorry about that. I just also agree with you guys saying so scared to like maybe exclude people. And I also definitely do think that they're maybe scared to say the wrong things and they might scare people away. Maybe they say one thing and then they, scare people off. But then at the end of the day, if you're rooted in your message and you know what you stand for, the people that you're scaring off are probably the people you don't want to work with. So you end up attracting the people you do want to work with. Yeah.
I think there's again, we talk about this in the book. There's a kind of a belief, right? You need to kind of back yourself and believe in yourself that this is kind of where you're going to go. It's very easy when you are starting out or you're a small business to take everything that comes your way, because you just you need the money. But that can lead you down the wrong path quite quickly, because suddenly you're dealing with kind of very maybe lower fee roles, and because that's all that's kind of seemed to be coming to you, and then you find it very difficult then to upsell that into a business where it's like, because then they're giving the FD role to another agency because you're not known for that, but that's actually where you wanted to become a specialist, So I think, again, starting off with that belief, and I think that, and I know that it doesn't always going to kind of drive you in the right direction, but having some conviction behind you, I think, will always kind of show in how you come across in meetings, in marketing, that kind of passion that you've kind of got. I think that definitely can support your owning the conversation. Okay, so let's move on. So what happens to a brand that doesn't have a clear position in the market? So what's the knock-on effects, right? So we've discussed why you need it. We've discussed kind of how you define it. But what happens if you kind of don't get it right, or you've kind of, it's all a bit muddy, basically. So you haven't got a clear position. Who wants to take that? Chris, I can see you.
I was just going to say, to just be blunt, you're not going to do well as a business. I don't think. I think you become busy fools, and by trying to appeal to everybody, you appeal to no one. So, like we just said, like the whole reputation thing, isn't it? Like, you are known for certain things, that certain sectors, certain level roles, whatever that may be. I think things become kind of interchangeable, and your market becomes a little bit hollow in terms of messaging and things like that. And Yeah, I just think if you haven't got a clear position of what you're doing, it kind of shows that you haven't, like, your business isn't guided by anything. It shows that your organization behind the scenes is probably a little bit messy as well. If I was someone that was looking for a recruitment agency and I saw, okay, these guys are recruiting to 10 different sectors, I'm kind of thinking, how do they know? Like, are these guys experts in which of these? Like, is that too many and things like that? So for me, I think it kind of sets you apart from your competitors in a less positive way, because you're not niching down and you're not becoming the expert in what you know. If that makes sense.
Yeah, completely.
You're going to struggle to stand out, aren't you? It's going to be like, well, why did we choose you over the competition?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what you guys stand for or what you're going to give me above Joe Blogs down the road. If you're all saying that, if you're all saying the same thing and no one's really standing out, it makes it, and then it becomes a race to the bottom in terms of fees.
Yeah.
It becomes a much more price-driven conversation. The other agency have gone to 14%. We've got to go down to 14%. And it's just like, that's not where recruiters want to be. You want to be positioning yourself so that that's not part of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. You can protect your margins if you are way kind of if one, if you're niche, and two, you've got this kind of ecosystem around you of that is literally just kind of saying the same thing, basically that shouts about that. That niche. You can talk with authority about that niche. You can add something to that conversation as opposed to just being a participant, right? You're actually driving that kind of conversation. And you can definitely compete. You can definitely protect your margins, because again, as we've spoken about, once you look the same as everybody else, what's the one thing that someone's going to compare you on? It's price, right? Because there's nothing to define you any differently from all the other businesses that they might be kind of reviewing or looking at. So if you can have that point of difference, which is everything that we've kind of just been discussing, then that's definitely a reason for someone to choose you and protect your margins and be able to kind of justify protecting your margins, because this space better than any of the other ones. You're talking about it all the time. You're leading these conversations. You're owning these conversations, and so you're less likely to have those kind of conversations around margins. And when you do, you can say, no, we can justify this because we know this better than everybody else. What are that? Our recruitment agency X kind of talking about this? Are they kind of leading this? No, they're not. That's us doing that. Yeah.
It's I think, if you take it back to, again, kind of thinking about consumer brands and how they tackle things like that, if you get, they don't focus on the product. They can price, some brands can price higher because they are deemed to be premium because of the messaging and the way that the aspiration, as you mentioned earlier, James, that aspiring and like to it's that thing that gives you that premium.
They've got authority within.
Yeah. They've got the authority. They're not talking about the product. They're not talking about, I don't know, trainers. They're not talking about the trainers. It's like you're buying the brand rather than the trainers. Okay, the brands, as I know that, but
you're right. You're
belief of the brand and what that's going to give you, and you're paying a premium for that.
It's the reason why people buy kind of Macs, right, and things like that, because you can buy other laptops, right? You're buying into the thing that Mac, the whole idea around kind of Apple and things like that. You're kind of that it seemed to be quite an exclusive brand. It seemed to be, they're all in this kind of polished silver. They kind of seem to have a better build quality, all of that, and that's why they can charge like 5 times the price as other because people want to be part of that kind of that club, basically. And you're right, there is absolutely no reason why those kinds of ideas and themes and topics can't be transferred into working with your kind of like a premium recruitment business, no matter where you sit within the space, whether you're whether you're volume or whether you're search and selection, whether you're temp, whether you're perm, whether you're contract, whether you're freelance, whether you all of that I think can be kind of worked into your brand and definitely kind of used to your advantage.
I was going to say something around, just taking it back to the Volvo, for example, buying somebody, recruiting someone for your business is a big purchase for somebody, for a company, right? Because the cost of a bad hire is super expensive. You want to make sure that you are investing in finding somebody that's going to work for your business, right? So I think if you're a recruitment agency and you've got to put yourself in your client's shoes. If I had a Volvo, for example, I've spent a fortune on that Volvo, or there are other cars out there, car brands out there. But if it broke, I probably wouldn't take it to a general mechanic. I would go to a Volvo garage, right? Because they know the Volvo inside out. They know they probably have the parts, whatever that may be. But that kind of can be, to recruiters as well. Are you going to go to a generalist recruiter who is covering 10 brands at lots of different levels that probably has a lower price point? Or are you going to see the investment in hiring for your business and go to somebody who is niche, knows exactly what they're doing, have the talent pool, who might be a little bit more expensive, but then you're going to get the quality of the candidate? I think I would be more inclined to go and spend a little bit more money, knowing that the people that I'm working with are going to get me the best of the best.
Yeah,
and know exactly what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
Yes. So if anyone's just joining us, this is the Marketing Rules podcast live. This is some of the amazing ThinkinCircles team, and we're just kind of going through some of the discussion points that were covered in our ebook, Owning the Conversation, pulling a few of those kind of topics out and kind of trying to drill down a little bit deeper into what it actually means for recruitment businesses. So if we move on to the next question, what are decisions distinctive brands make differently? So what is it that's the ones that we can think of, we don't have to name names, or the ones that we like, could even be the ones we work with, let's face it, they should be the ones we work with, are kind of doing a bit differently, that is actually kind of like leveraging everything that we have already kind of discussed, maybe more, and kind of putting them into that space where they are owning the conversation. Chris, I can see you kind of nodding there.
I feel like we've covered like the authority side of it, but again, I just kind of want to push that it's, stay in your lane, what you're good at. And again, I said earlier, sometimes you don't have to shout about it. If you get that level of reputation, it's all inbound, right? Which is the golden goose that we don't often see. But, when you do know your niche, you do know your positioning, and you know what your messaging is, it's about kind of doing that, isn't it? And what we see with recruitment agencies and what we do with recruitment agencies is, again, stay in our lane. Let's talk about and make you guys kind of your reputation great. Let's make you thought leaders. Let's kind of show what you're doing day in, day out externally. What we find, I think, is a lot of, even though recruitment can be classed as a kind of a sales job, right? A lot of recruitment agencies don't know how to sell themselves, and they struggle with that. And they are sat on all this data, all this information. They are the boots on the ground, having all these conversations, and they just don't know how to put it out there. And the recruitment agencies that are doing well, that are standing out, are doing exactly that. They're taking what they're sat on and they are projecting it to the world to show they know what's happening. And I think that's what a lot of recruitment agencies need to become better at. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, again, if we're kind of for like live examples from a ThinkinCircles perspective, Chris, we've been kind of talking to a brand kind of recently with exactly that kind of point, that they have they've actually, the brand itself is very good. It's very kind of well kind of respected. The problem they've kind of got is actually kind of leveraging everything that's in the minds of the really good people within that business and putting that out there further to basically give them a position, give them a message, and give them that point of authority. And you know what? That just that is not easy, right? That is not easy to kind of to build that. And we will come on to kind of where how you could maybe kind of, if we've got time, maybe we'll see how you could actually kind of like pull out some of those kind of things. But yeah, there's a lot of businesses have got all this stuff sometimes just sitting there, right? They're already really good businesses, right? They've probably been operating for a while. They've got really good brands within their markets, well respected. But there's another level, right? There is absolutely another level they could go to, whether it's management visibility, whether it's consultant visibility. Just one of the things that you can draw out, because consultants will be having these conversations day in, day out with clients, and they really probably, the good ones are probably just delving into those kind of conversations to pull out kind of little bits of information from their clients around what's going on in the market, what they're seeing in that business, and being way more consultative than actually just being kind of transactional. And this kind of ties into everything that we've kind of just been kind of talking about. Yeah. Kat.
I've had a total brain.
So what we were talking about is what are the decisions that make that distinctive recruitment brands are making differently? What are the things they're doing that is actually kind of making them top of mind, owning the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you know, it's a lot of what we've already talked about. It's the ones that are doing it differently and better are the ones that are going, okay, this is what I want, this is where I want to own the conversation, and they're investing in that across all of their business. So, you know, from a marketing and messaging perspective, it's putting the effort and the resources into you know, like the thought leadership content and the insights that you're delivering, as Crystal mentioned, and really kind of, you know, making sure that you are consistently delivering the correct messaging within that space. But then it's making sure that that also translates through to the experience that the client is getting. It's not just the marketing message that's going out there. Is that actually the experience that they're getting when they talk to the consultants, when the candidates are with you? Are they feeling, if you're out there saying, you know, we are the, you know, I don't know, we are, you know, this is out, we own the conversation in this, and this is our niche.
Yes.
Is that reflected in the experience that the candidates and clients are having? Is that reinforcing it? Are all of the touch points reinforcing that belief, that conversation?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It's almost kind of like,
it's not just a slogan, is it? It's,
are you kind of walking the walk and talking the talk?
Yeah, you're living and breathing it.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's one of the things that some businesses can find to overcome, that you have the discussion with people within the business. They're passionate about what they do. Actually, they genuinely want to kind of, you know, raise the profile of recruitment. They really want to help the candidates they're working with. They definitely, absolutely want to kind of be as supportive as possible and understand what their clients need. The problem is sometimes that's just not translated out there. So the best businesses that kind of I know of is they've kind of, that passion is translated onto outside of their company, right? Yeah. And that definitely comes from just being a bit more visible and a bit more consistent. And you know, you've touched on it, consistency is still really key in all of this, right?
And sticking with it for, like, you know, what are we doing? Like, where do we want to, what do we want to be known for in the next 2 or 3 years, not just the next 2 or 3 weeks? Because I think recruitment's really has a susceptibility to get bored with messaging quite quickly. You know, whether it's templates and how things look, or whether it's, you know, there's, you know, what I've seen it on LinkedIn so many times, I'm bored of it now. It's like, yes, but you're not the target audience. You know, that thing of, there's a desire to change things and refresh things, and obviously that has a time and a place, but you know, there's you got to own something and stick with it and really own that space for a long time, and not keep jumping around to different things. I agree.
Taylor, is anything you want to kind of add to that?
So I would also, I feel that from a marketing point of view, like as a marketer, if I am a marketer for someone like a recruitment brand that actually, you know, makes those distinctive decisions, I just feel that it would just be so much easier for me, because I wouldn't have to be dealing with reactive marketing. Like, everything that I am putting out there for that business, it's actually intentional. And I never have to guess when it comes to putting out posts for them or how to appeal to their target audience. So it's just really helpful.
Yeah, agree. Great point. So before we got one last question, we're kind of coming to the end of our kind of half an hour. And so if we were working with a brand that is starting from kind of scratch tomorrow, let's try and all kind of pick one thing where we would kind of, what we would suggest they do to achieve everything that we have kind of discussed today, you know, to become known in their space, to own the conversation, to have a brand that stands for something, to have an opinion but not kind of but not to be provocative, all of those kind of things. Just kind of one thing that I think we would suggest if we're working with a startup today to do that. Chris, let's start with you.
Don't.
Okay.
But make sure that there is a problem that needs filling. I would say, you know, a lot of companies now who are generalist recruitment agencies are probably going to struggle going forward, because there are a lot of new people coming on the scene with really hyper niches. And I think that, you know, with AI and all this kind of stuff, I think you need to have a problem. There needs to be a solution that needs to be filled, and you need to be with that and stick with that.
Yeah, cool. Kat?
I would say define your audience.
Yeah.
Know your audience.
Yeah. And that's easier said than done, right? Because, you know, when a lot of businesses, you say, who are your audience? You get literally kind of like a entire kind of like novel of things like, that's not your audience, right? That isn't your audience. Taylor, have you got kind of one thing that you would like to add to that?
So for me personally, what I would do is, because I have been on both sides as a client and a candidate, just anything within the process that was frustrating for me, I would make sure that my processes wouldn't have those same issues. And I would be very clear that anyone who works at my company or things like that, we would treat people a certain way.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and for me, I'm going to kind of go back to what I said before. Is you know, don't go into this kind of blindfolded. You need to be consistent, right? Yeah. Consistency is actually part of the kind of really easy solutions. It's to do this. Just keep at it, right? Is once you've gone down this road, you know, we've all seen those companies that don't post for 3 months, and then something goes up because they've suddenly realized they haven't got a lot going on that week, and then they disappear again. You don't build authority. You don't own the conversation by being inconsistent, right? You need to be present a lot of the time. And I know that sounds like a lot of work. And you know what? It bloody well is. And if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Exactly. So I think we're coming to the end. We've gone over a little bit. Thank you very much for kind of joining us today. This has obviously been the Marketing Rules Podcast live. I want to thank Taylor, Kat, and Chris for joining us today. If anybody wants to know more about ThinkinCircles, then go to ThinkinCircles.com. That's also where you can download the ebook from. It's right at the top of on the homepage. Just click on download the ebook. If you want to kind of other routes, you can either kind of reach out to any of us, and we will just kind of send you that ebook as well. Message us on LinkedIn or give us an email. And we will get that to you. And so thank you for joining us. And we will see you all again next month. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.